Hey there, guys. So I want to thank you, as always, for joining today's live stream. So I do have a new topic that I've not really talked about, and that's going to be over interval training today. But before I go ahead and get started with this topic, I do want to share a few things that I've been working on. So I have a new YouTube video that I'm in the works on, and I'm also going to be doing more videos like this. But with this video that I'm doing, I'm going to be doing more of how-to videos. However, these are going to be a little bit different than the short form videos that you see. What I'm going to be doing in these is actually sort of explaining a little bit more in the detail of performing the workouts. So there's going to be a little bit of voiceover of me basically, instructing what we're doing with the specific workouts that we're, maybe whether it's like biceps, sort of explaining specifically how to target that muscle, how to perform, the workouts properly, and sort of going into a little bit more into detail of performing the workouts. So this is expect a little bit different sort of, I guess, content from this because I'm gonna go into more detail and give you guys, of course, more value in relation to sort of my other content. So I'm sort of branching out, trying different things. And I really do want to build my YouTube channel because I do put a lot of effort into that. I usually put live streams on there, and then I also put short form content on there. And I've been sort of contemplating on, creating more content, more valuable content, and, that's more eye popping and that gives you value. I'm planning on doing these in sort of around 10 minutes. They're going to be like 10-minute sort of videos, is where I'm trying to focus the time on so that it's not too long and it's not overbearing. So watch out for that. I'm working on that at the moment. I still am sort of recording videos and getting that compiled and put together, but do expect more content on my YouTube channel. I will share it to Facebook too as I get it all together. Another thing I do want to mention, I do have an ebook that I'm working on at the moment, and I don't have it ready yet, but just keep in mind that when you join the email list, you will get access to this ebook. And what I'm going to be talking about in this ebook is going to be a comprehensive guide to supersets. So that's a free guide that you can get access to as long as you are a part of the email list. If you want to be a part of the email list, just feel free to let me know. Again, this is a free PDF ebook that you can get. And the same with this new YouTube video. This is free. This is all free stuff, free content that I'm putting out. So if you're interested, just, subscribe to my YouTube channel or, sign up for the email list. I will keep you updated on there as well. So that's a few of the projects that I've been working on. I did want to share that before I got started today. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about today's topic, which is interval training. So this is something that I've not really talked about, and it's something that I wanted to touch on to give you more information because there's a lot of different training methods that are kind of thrown out there in the fitness sphere, and training methods that you've likely heard of, you likely have done, you may have done interval training. But what I'm going to do is sort of discuss a little bit about what interval training is, different types of methods of interval training. Now, before I get into this topic in particular, keep in mind that interval training may not necessarily be, something that works towards your specific goal. Um, for different people, it may not be the best method of reaching their goal. So sort of keep that in mind. But with that being said, let's go ahead and discuss interval training. So, what is interval training? Interval training is a form of exercise that alternates between periods of high intensity activity and periods of lower intensity activity or rest. So the goal of interval training is to challenge the body. By pushing it to work at a high intensity for short bursts, followed by brief recovery periods. So interval training is very self-explanatory. I've done interval training myself. And I'm going to discuss one of the methods that I've done, which is HIIT training. But just keep in mind that basically the structure of interval training is pretty simple. Usually, the way it works is that you would perform a specific set of workouts for a certain amount of time, and then you would do a short rest period and then go into another set of workouts. So it's kind of you're going into intervals. So it's all time based. So it's a little bit different than sort of your normal structured routine. You're going through this workout in a specific amount of time. Usually, workouts, you would perform a maximum amount of reps in say maybe like 60 seconds or like a minute or a couple minutes, and you would go through, perform that specific workout for that amount of time, do a short, probably 30-second rest, and then go into another workout. That's sort of how it's structured. Um, but again, a lot of this sort of training is more focused on, I sort of see it more as, performance based and power based workouts. So, sort of increasing performance is where I would see a great benefit from interval training. Now, like I said, it's not going to be for everybody. This training method is not everybody's sort of cup of tea. So, sort of keep that in mind. Now, what I do want to discuss is some of the various types of interval training. And this is the one that I've done myself. I have done HIIT training before, and I actually enjoyed HIIT training. HIIT training is very intense. It is not an easy type of training method, but it can be very effective depending on what your goals are. So, HIIT training, or HIIT, high intensity interval training, involves short bursts of intense exercise followed by brief periods of rest or low intensity activity. The high intensity intervals are typically performed at 80 to 95% of maximum effort, while the recovery periods allow the heart rate to come down to around 50 to 65% of maximum. So, HIIT workouts can vary in duration and structure, but are known for their efficiency in burning calories, improving cardiovascular fitness, and increasing metabolic rate post exercise. So again, that sort of goes back into the performance, based goals is where I see this sort of training method. Because you are doing really, higher intensity. You're not doing, when it comes to like for example, when you're doing weightlifting, the intensity is not as high. You're at more of a moderate intensity or lower intensity than versus with HIIT training where you're performing most of the workouts in very high intensity, you know, basically in the same vein as a cardio workout. You're performing it for an extended amount of time and doing separate workouts. So that's basically what HIIT training is focused on. Again, one of the benefits, or some of the few benefits, is the burning of calories, improving cardiovascular fitness, and then increasing that metabolic rate post exercise. So you are going to burn a lot of calories when you do high intensity interval training. But again, keep in mind that this training method is not easy. It is very intense, and it's something that you have to get adjusted to. If you are somebody who is wanting to improve performance, maybe not wanting to focus in particular on muscle gain, this is a training method that I would say that would work fine for you. But for somebody with muscle gain, this is not something that I would necessarily recommend, because of the nature of it and because you're burning a ton of calories when you're doing this type of workout. So, again, like I mentioned, it just kind of depends on your goals. So the next one we've got here, this is another example of interval training, and I'm going to go over a few other ones too beyond this one as well. So Tabata training is a specific form of HIIT developed by Japanese researcher Dr. Izumi Tabata. It consists of 8 rounds of ultra high intensity exercises performed for 20 seconds, followed by 10 seconds of rest. The total workout time is just 4 minutes. So making Tabata training incredibly intense and effective for improving an anaerobic capacity and cardiovascular fitness in a short amount of time. Now, I can say that I've not tried Tabata training before, but this, again, same vein as HIIT training, except you're doing it in an even shorter amount of time. So it's likely the workouts for this are going to be way higher intensity than what you're doing in a HIIT training, you know, routine basically. But again, keep in mind it consists of 8 rounds of ultra high intensity exercises performed for 20 seconds, followed by 10 seconds of rest. Total workout time is just 4 minutes. So that's basically what Tabata training is. So the next training method we've got here is Farlek training. So Farlek training, which means speed play in Swedish, is a form of interval training that involves alternating between periods of fast running or sprinting and periods of slower jogging or walking. Unlike structured interval workouts, fartlek training is unstructured and allows for spontaneous changes in intensity and duration based on terrain, effort level, or personal preference. Fartlek training is highly adaptable and suitable for individuals of all fitness levels. So this training method I could see, you know, different people can use. I mean, for various goals, you can use this training method. And a lot of this is more involved with cardiovascular fitness. I pretty much sort of do basically this type of training myself because I do and all when I do most of my cardio, and I don't do a lot of cardio because I do focus more on muscle gain. That's my goal is a little bit different. So for somebody who's wanting weight loss, maybe they would lean more into this more. But with this, I usually, when I do my cardio, I usually sort of do it in intervals in the same way. Whereas I'll do a period of walking, maybe do a period of jogging for a certain amount of minutes, and then go back into walking, go back into jogging. So I do this sort of training method and I, sort of change it up. And, you know, it's just more spontaneous, I guess you would say, because I like it a little bit of challenge, and so that's why I sort of involve a little bit of jogging, a little bit of walking, but still keeping under sort of a certain amount of time to where it's not being detrimental to muscle gain. Because if you do too much cardio, and I've mentioned this before, it can go against your goal. If you're focusing on muscle gain, it can go against that specific goal. So you have to have a balance. And the reason why I still do cardio regardless of muscle gain is because it helps with cardiovascular fitness itself. It helps with your heart. So integrating a little bit of cardio into a muscle gain routine is not a bad idea. But going back to this, of course, just sort of understand that this is basically alternating between various sort of forms of cardio, fast running, sprinting, jogging, walking is sort of going into different types of, methods of cardio. So pyramid training is the next one. This will be the last one that I discuss when it relates to interval training. So pyramid training involves gradually increasing and then decreasing the intensity or duration of intervals in a structured pattern. For example, a time-based pyramid workout might start with short intervals, gradually increase to a peak duration, and then decrease back down to short intervals again. Alternatively, a repetition-based pyramid workout might involve increasing the number of repetitions or sets performed during each interval before decreasing again. Pyramid training offers variety and progression, allowing individuals to challenge themselves and push their limits while incorporating intervals of varying lengths and intensities. So, pyramid training is again, you're doing it based on the model of a pyramid. So you're going to gradually increase to a peak duration, and then you're going to decrease back down to short intervals. It's basically that sort of type of training method. So again, this is very dependent on your goals. If you want something challenging, this could be a great idea, but it's going to offer, a different variety of progression, allowing you to challenge yourself and push your limits, based on the specific, duration, the peak duration, and then the shorter intensity. So, what are benefits of interval training? I've talked about a little bit of the different methods of interval training that you can try out, but what are the benefits as it relates to interval training? So, the first thing is interval training is highly effective for burning calories and promoting weight loss. The combination of high intensity exercise and brief recovery periods results in a greater caloric expenditure compared to steady state cardio workouts of similar duration. High intensity intervals stimulate fat metabolism and increase post exercise calorie burn. Now, when we're talking about post exercise calorie burn, basically what that means is that when you're at rest, you're going to burn more calories. That's what that's sort of, meaning in that sense. And when you do so much of workouts, you're going to be able to burn more calories at rest when you stay active. But going back to this, leading to a greater fat loss and improved body composition over time. Interval training has been shown to be particularly effective for reducing visceral fat, which is associated with an increased risk of chronic diseases. Interval training allows you to achieve significant fitness gains in a shorter amount of time compared to traditional steady state cardio workouts. With interval training, you can achieve similar or better results in terms of cardiovascular fitness and calorie burn in less time, making it ideal for individuals with busy schedules. So keep in mind, again, like I mentioned, this training method is more focused on performance and it is more beneficial to your cardiovascular fitness and health than when it comes to, focusing on muscle gain or doing weightlifting. So this training method is probably beneficial for somebody who's focusing more on weight loss. Again, somebody who's an athlete focusing more on performance, anything of that sort is where I would sort of gear interval training going towards, a specific goal. So some tips for effective interval training. Begin your interval training session with a 5 to 10 minute warm up. This is something that I do recommend for any workout, really. But let's focus on this. So, warm up, you want a 5 to 10 minute warm up to prepare your muscles and cardiovascular system for the upcoming intensity, including dynamic stretches with light cardio to gradually increase your heart rate and warm up your muscles. So, dynamic stretches, I do want to mention this before I move forward. Basically, you have two different types of stretches. So you got static stretches where you're basically stretching a specific muscle and you're holding the stretch for a specific amount of time. Dynamic stretches are where you're doing, basically a more active sort of stretch where you're doing maybe like you've got like arm circles, you've got, any sort of workout like leg swings, anything of that sort is going to be more in line with a dynamic stretch. Whereas a static stretch, you're holding a specific stretch of a specific muscle, and static stretch, you're more doing I would call it's more of a conditioning sort of workout where you're preparing specific muscles in motion rather than having as a normal static stretch. So, again, with this, the next thing you want to do is select intervals that match your fitness level and goals. So you, of course, want to start with something that you are comfortable starting with, but that's also going to offer a challenge. So beginners may start with shorter work intervals. So this can be 20 to 30 seconds, followed by longer rest periods, while more advanced individuals can increase the intensity and duration of both work and rest intervals. During the work intervals, aim to push yourself to near maximum effort. This is where the magic happens in interval training. Your intensity should be high enough to challenge you, but sustainable for the duration of the interval. This is what I mentioned when it comes to weightlifting too. You want to, again, like going back to weightlifting, you want to start with a weight that you're comfortable with, but you want it to be challenging. And the same sort of method goes with this. You want to start with, having a high enough intensity that's challenging, but also that's sustainable to where you can perform the duration of the interval long enough, if that makes sense. So that's basically the same sort of guidelines that you're following with interval training. You're starting with a warm up. You're doing dynamic stretches, you're doing light cardio to get started, and then you're selecting an interval training method that you are comfortable with, something that is within your fitness level, and you are structuring it based on what type of work intervals you want to do and what type of rest periods you want to have between those intervals. And then, of course, during those intervals, you want to push yourself and reach near maximum effort and stay in that duration in a comfortable range to where you can be able to sustain that duration of time. So just keep that in mind. It's pretty much the same as if you're talking about weightlifting or any other training method. So the science behind interval training, so I'm going to sort of add a few extra things. And this is sort of a little bit more into detail, but I do want to add these just to give you guys a little bit more information on sort of the background of interval training in itself. So, interval training engages both the aerobic and anaerobic energy systems during high intensity intervals. The anaerobic system predominates relying on stored ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So, basically, what ATP is sort of the energy. It's basically the energy that's being used. And then creatine phosphate for rapid energy production. So one of the significant advantages of interval training in it is its ability to induce EPOC, also known as afterburn effect. High intensity intervals deplete muscle glycogen stores and create an oxygen debt, leading to increased post-exercise oxygen consumption as the body works to restore energy stores and return to homeostasis. So again, I know this is a little bit more information than you probably want to know, but these are just a little bit of the sort of science behind what interval training does behind the scenes with your body. Alrighty, guys, so that's pretty much all I have for you today. I hope that you guys found this really valuable. I did kind of go a little bit more into detail than I normally do with some topics that I discuss, but I did want to share this because this is something that I don't really discuss that often, and I do want to touch on topics that you may not have heard about, or topics that you may have done interval training. Like I've done interval training myself, and it's a topic that some or training method some people do. This is a training method that may not be beneficial for everybody, but it's a training method in itself, and especially beneficial for people who maybe have a busy schedule. And again, for somebody who's focusing on, maybe increasing their calorie burn, sort of increasing metabolism, it's a great method to try. So don't stray away from it necessarily. If that's what your goal is, if you're focusing on weight loss and you're focusing on performance, this is probably a great method to try. But keep in mind sort of all the tips that I mentioned, starting with, the proper interval amount of time, being able to stay in that duration amount of time, and just starting with within your fitness level basically. So thank you guys again for taking the time to join in on these live streams. I will continue to do these live streams every Wednesday, along with the new YouTube videos that I'm going to be posting. So the way that you can find out about those YouTube videos is, of course, subscribing to my channel. If you want information on that, please let me know. You can also visit my website. I am constantly working on it and improving it as much as possible. It's bponlinefitness.com. You can find links to various different social media sites that I'm on. You can find information about my online coaching program. You can also find information about how to join the email list. I also post blog content on there. There's a fitness blog that you can access when you go to the website. There's a bunch of stuff I've been trying to integrate into my website that you can have access to. So definitely check that out. But thank you guys again. I will have another live stream next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, as always. But just watch out for the new YouTube videos that I'm working on. I'm going to be sharing that pretty soon. But again, in the process of sort of compiling everything together and getting it ready to upload. So thank you guys again for all your support with my online coaching and just my business in general. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys again in the next live stream.